This isn't happening to you by chance. You are being signaled, and the time is now. That date, July 2025, it's not just a point in the future. Think of it as a doorway, a silent threshold that is now becoming visible. Every single event in your history has been a stepping stone, carving you out, preparing you for this very moment. This is not about panic, this is about clarity. You've sensed it coming, the inner static, the rising pressure, the undeniable feeling that the old way is breaking. That instinct is not a fantasy, it is your soul's compass, trying to make you look up before this doorway closes. You were not engineered to follow the herd. You were never meant for the endless hum of distraction, for the hollow pursuit of fleeting wants. You have been pulled thin, tested, shattered, and remade for a singular purpose: to finally awaken. That moment has arrived. This current you feel, this deep internal hum, is not a threat from the outside world, it's a signal from within. It is the final alarm of your spirit. You can wake up with it, or you can choose to stay asleep. But the reality remains unchanged. Something inside you must be transformed, and on some level, you know it already has been. July 2025 will not be the apocalypse. It must, however, be the final curtain call for the old you, the version that hesitates, that second guesses, that trades purpose for the warmth of the familiar. That self can no longer go forward. The world has no use for a diminished version of you. It is desperate for the real one. Not in a few months, not when you're ready. Now, you can feel the truth of this. It's why this message holds your attention, why you're still present. That urgency vibrating in your core is your confirmation. This moment is the question, and your life is the answer. The time for justification is over. The time for waiting for the perfect conditions has expired. This is it. Everything required of you is already inside you. Not in some external thing, but woven into your very being. Resilience, perception, self-command, presence. These were not given to you, they were forged in you before you had words for them. Your entire life has been the fire. Every setback, every broken promise, every night you stared into the dark asking, "Why is this my life?" was tempering the steel. It was also that when July 2025 appeared, you would recognize your own true nature and know how to come home to it. This world is a storm of noise. It has conditioned humanity to forget its own depth. It has trained you for survival, but your destiny was never to simply get by. It was to rise, to see without illusion, to live from your core. That requires courage. And this date represents a line drawn in time, visible only to those who are willing to claim that courage. You don't need a complete map. You don't have to feel fully prepared. You only need to make a choice. Choose substance over shadow. Choose presence over the noise. Choose integrity over excuses. You are not being called to invent a new person. You are being called to excavate the one who has always been there, your true self, buried under layers of conditioning, under the identities you've worn, beneath the inner voice that whispers, "Just wait a little longer." In July, a gate swings open, not in the world, but in your awareness. It's a gate that only bravery can unlock. If you walk through it, you will be fundamentally altered. Not because the world around you changes, but because your perception of it does. And when your perception changes, the world has no choice but to follow. You are reading this now because you were meant to. There are no accidents. Do not dismiss this as just another piece of content. It is not. This is your soul's reminder that your time here is finite, that your comfort zone is a gilded cage, that procrastination is simply fear in disguise. You have been lulled into thinking you have endless tomorrows, but you do not. You have been taught to wait for a leader. They are not coming. The responsibility is yours. It always was. This message is not designed to frighten you. It is designed to activate you, to resonate with the part of you that has known this all along. You are still on your feet because you were built to lead. You faced darkness so you could understand light. You were shattered so that your persona could dissolve and your essence could emerge. July 2025 is no longer about quiet contemplation. It is not about remaining still. It is about decisive action, about rising up and finally showing the world who you truly are. Will you encounter resistance? Of course. That is part of the process. Will fear surface? It is guaranteed, but you act anyway. You speak your truth anyway, because that is what those who are awakened do. Not because they are perfect, but because they have abandoned the fantasy of perfection. They use the tools they have. They stand on the ground of their own knowing, and they refuse to hide. Let this period, this approach to July 2025, be the point where you drop the act, the day you stop negotiating with your own truth, the moment you stop declaring you're not ready. Let this be the day you consciously release the self that is holding you back. The world is starved for the person only you were born to be. Not later, not when it's easy, but now. The majority of people assume the world they perceive is the only one. They drift through life in a state of reaction, reacting to headlines, to anxieties, to the approval of others. They pursue things that are guaranteed to rust. They build their identities on job titles, appearances, and accomplishments, foundations of sand that can be washed away in an instant. But this is not your path. That is why you were signaled by this message. The age of illusion is collapsing. The world you perceive is not the complete picture. It is a projection of unexamined fears and inherited beliefs. Your reality has been constructed by conditioning from the day you were born: what to want, what to chase, what to hold as true. That is not you. That is not your core reality. You are not your profession. You are not your past mistakes. You are not your reputation. These are costumes, temporary roles you have played. The real world, the one that lies beneath this static, only reveals itself when the mind becomes quiet. When you cease the constant labeling, when you stop defending your persona, when you stop fleeing from uncomfortable truths, that is when reality dodges. That is when you see how hypnotized people are, how easily they are led, how addicted they have become to external validation and internal noise. The real world begins where the manufactured one dissolves. And that is what July 2025 symbolizes. A shift, not a cataclysm in the sky, but a revolution within. A fracture in the consensus reality. A decision to stop performing, to cease the act. The world outside appears more turbulent than ever. This is not a coincidence. This is the sound of the illusion cracking under its own weight. The pressure is forcing it to break. And here you stand at a point of choice. Continue the performance, or open your eyes to what is real. The real world is not something you build, it is something you unveil. You don't have to create it. You just have to stop obscuring it. Stop drowning it in distractions, in relentless thinking, in emotional dramas you never truly examine. When you decelerate, when you observe your mind without engaging its stories, that is when the curtain lifts. That is when you begin to perceive the truth. You were told success is a bank account, that happiness is a possession, that love is a transaction, that being liked is safety, but none of it is real. These ideas were planted to keep you docile. The truth is quieter, more profound. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply is. It waits for you to become weary of the superficial, to become tired of chasing things that can never truly fill you. That point of exhaustion, that profound weariness, that is now. The world you have been living in is founded on scarcity, on speed, on rivalry. That is why so many feel empty. That is why no achievement is ever enough. They are attempting to feed a soul, deep hunger with material that has no nourishment. They seek stability in fleeting circumstances and are thrown into chaos when those circumstances change. The true world is already here, but it demands something from you. It demands stillness. It demands honesty. It demands the courage to look at yourself without flinching, to own what you have disowned, to stop outsourcing blame, to cease numbing yourself and finally begin to live. Not for show, not for anyone else, but for what is undeniably real. This is not a path for most people. But if you have been signaled, it is the only path for you. July 2025 is not about what happens out there. It's about how you perceive. It is about a fundamental change in your awareness. The instant you stop reacting and start observing, the moment you disengage from the ego and anchor yourself in presence, that is the transformation. And it is available to you right now. If you are willing to release your grip, release the identity you have been defending, release the fear that dictates your choices, release the story that you must earn your right to be here. These are the fictions that blind you. These are the layers that obscure your sight. Peel them away, and what you discover is a profound silence, a depth, a peace. Not a peace that is conditional on anything, but a peace that is your very nature. This is not a philosophy. It is a way of being. You either perceive the truth or you do not. You either operate from that truth or from fear. There is no middle ground. The date is a signpost, a gateway, a mirror. Step through it and your entire existence recalibrates. You will move with more deliberation, speak with more intention, listen with your whole being, and live with an unshakable clarity. That is how you will know you have entered the real world. And once you do, you can never go back. The surface of life will never again be enough. The need to escape will vanish. The compulsion to chase will dissolve. You will simply be, completely honestly. And in that quiet power, you will remember what you have always been. Hardship has been your most profound master. Its lessons were harsh, but they forged you in a way that ease never could. The fact is, no part of your life has been a waste. Not the heartbreak, not the isolation, not the moments of failure. Every time you were brought to your knees, something indestructible was built in you: clarity, resilience, awareness. These qualities are not born of victory. They are born of the struggle, of the hours no one witnessed, of the silent battles of the moment you had no idea how you would go on, but you found a way. July 2025 is not about destiny or doom. It's about remembering. It's a call to look back and see that your suffering had a purpose. Not because it was pleasant, but because it burned away everything that was not essential. It destroyed the fantasy that you were in complete control. It forced you to be humble, It showed you who your real allies were. It taught you to listen, to be still, to stop posturing. You were not being punished, you were being refined. Every scar is a testament, but more than that, it is a source of power. The very fact that you survived the fire means you carry something sacred. Not everyone makes it through the darkness, but you did. And you didn't just endure, you were transformed. Your eyes were trained to see what others miss. Your pain calibrated your perception to notice what is truly valuable, to find beauty in stillness, and to choose substance over noise. You no longer get triggered as you once did. You don't pursue things with the same desperation. You have been evolving quietly, almost without notice, but with immense depth. July is more than just a date. It's a reflective surface. It is asking you to be still and see, not to run from what wounded you, but to understand its alchemy. There is no growth without pressure, no deep insight without a breakdown. What you have been through has taught you things no book ever could. It taught you patience. It taught you fortitude. It taught you how to act even when there was no audience, especially then. That is when your true power was born. The world teaches people to flee from pain, to medicate it, to ignore it, to distract themselves from it. But those who are signaled are sculpted by it. Not broken, not defeated. It is not about being fearless. It is about moving forward while the fear is present. It is about walking through the fire and not letting it consume your heart. You have done this. You have navigated storms no one knew about, and you are still standing. That is not a sign of weakness. That is mastery. There were moments you almost surrendered. You told yourself it was too much. You lost faith in the path. That was a necessary part of the journey. The breaking was crucial so the false self could crumble and the true self could emerge. The version of you that was full of questions had to be emptied because the real you was buried underneath. More grounded, more centered, and more wise. Now is the moment to stop defining yourself by old stories. It's time to stop carrying your pain as a burden. Carry it as a sword. Let it be the reminder of what you have conquered. Let it be the fuel for your discipline. Let it anchor you in what is real. July 2025 marks the turning point where you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "This happened for me." Not to excuse it, not to forget it, but to build upon it. To stop letting healed wounds dictate your future. You are no longer a captive of your history. You are the product of your choices. Your strength was not inherited. It was built, day after day, in the very fires you thought would destroy you. You now possess a wisdom others do not. Not because they are lesser, but because they have not walked your path. You know the weight of silence. You have sat in the void. You have survived nights when no help came, and days when your composure was a mask for a hurricane. That kind of knowledge is precious. It creates compassion. It gives weight to your words. It gives authority to your presence. When you speak, it lands. Not because you are loud, but because you speak from a place of earned experience. This pain was not for nothing, but now you must decide what it becomes. Let it be converted into insight. Let it inform how you act, how you talk, how you lead. The world does not need more perfect people. It needs whole ones. It needs those who have been humbled and have gotten back up. People who have known the dark and yet consciously choose the light. That is you. You were signaled because you endured suffering and did not let it make you bitter. You used it to sharpen your perception. The era of waiting is over. The pain that sculpted you now calls you to move. Speak with resolve. Act up, stop apologizing for your past. It made you on July 2025. Let that be the moment you stop looking over your shoulder with regret and start striding forward with strength. You have to break the chains in your own mind. They are not made of steel, but they are just as real. They restrain you every time you pull back, every time you trust the inner voice that whispers you are not ready. These chains are constructed from thoughts old, habitual, and unexamined. They command you to play small, to stay silent, to wait. But you have waited long enough. It is time to see the truth. Understand that it was never the world that held you back. It was always your own mind. Since you were a child, you were programmed who to be, what to fear, what you had to do to be worthy. You adopted this programming, not from a place of weakness, but because it is what culture does. But now it is time for the deprogramming, not eventually, not gradually now, because July 2025 is not a distant concept. It is a sharp pivot point, a moment to cut through the fog and recognize what is real. The prison was always in your head. Your thoughts are not commands. Your feelings are not facts. You have spent a lifetime reacting to both. That time is over. You are not your anxiety. You are not your habits. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that witnesses them. And that awareness is inherently free. The moment it stops identifying with the mental traffic, the mind is a relentless negotiator. It bargains for comfort. It warns you against taking risks. It tells you that you're not prepared. But consider, how long have you obeyed that voice? How many opportunities have you let pass because of it? How many times have you stayed silent when your truth needed to be spoken? How often have you chosen comfort over evolution? That voice has been your warden for too long. It is not your guide, it is your gatekeeper, and it fears your liberation. To break these internal chains is to do the opposite of what the conditioned mind demands. Be still when it craves distraction. Act when it insists on delay. Move forward even when it floods you with doubt. This is how the awakened live, not by seeking permission from their own thoughts, but by becoming the master of them. Discipline is not a punishment, it is your primary tool. Without it, you are driven by your mind. With it, you direct your mind. July 2025 is a crossroads. You either continue in the old loops or you break them for good. You can draw a line in the sand and declare, from now on, I am no longer governed by runaway thought. I am my own guide. This is where true transformation happens. Not tomorrow, not when it feels safe. Now, freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It is the power to not be a slave to your fleeting impulses. It is choosing your response. It is stepping away from the need for immediate gratification and forging a mind that can hold focus, power, and stillness. You already possess this capacity, but it must be cultivated daily. There are no shortcuts. There are no magic pills. There is only commitment, presence, and conscious practice. Begin to observe the story that runs on a loop in your head. It has a familiar script. You're behind, you might fail, you're not enough. It manufactures fear like a factory, but it's all fiction. And the moment you withdraw your belief from it, it starts to lose its power. When you stop taking it seriously, it dissolves. That is the essence of this turning point, releasing what is no longer true, disentangling from what was never yours to begin with, reclaiming your own life force. This is the only real battle. Not in the world, but inside of you, the conflict between awareness and conditioning, between your true nature and the persona your mind wants you to be. Every day that you practice is a victory for freedom. Every time you consciously interrupt an old habit, you win. The awakened are not without fear, they are simply more committed to their purpose than to their fear. They feel the doubt and they act anyway. That is what real freedom looks like. In July 2025, let it be undeniable, not to anyone else but to yourself, that the chains have been broken. That you no longer mistake the noise in your head for reality. That you now operate from a place of clarity. You move from a core of stillness. You are no longer trapped by old programming. This is not about becoming a different person. It is about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And once you truly remember, you cannot forget. You will see the thoughts, but they will not pull you. You will feel the emotions, but they will not own you. You will live deeply with purpose and with truth. A mission starts from within. Not with action, not with words, not with guiding others. It starts in the quiet, in self-discipline, in the moments no one sees. If you cannot master yourself, you are not fit to lead anything or anyone. Before you attempt to change the world, quiet your own mind. Before you go searching for truth, let go of your own delusions. The world outside of you is a perfect mirror of your inner state. That is an immutable law. If your thinking is chaotic, your life will be chaotic. If your mind is a storm, your path forward will be obscured. Inner clarity is the bedrock of everything. July is not an end point. It is a beginning, not for the passive or the distracted, but for the focused. This path is not about chasing feelings of inspiration or waiting for motivation to strike. Those are fleeting, they cannot be trusted. Mastery is not fleeting, it is built through conscious practice. By choosing order when the mind offers chaos, by getting up when your conditioning tells you to stay down. That is the source of real power. Not from what is easy, but from what is necessary. The world has enough leaders who are themselves lost, who are driven by ego and insecurity. That is why there is so much shouting and so little wisdom. You are not meant for that path. You are here to live with integrity, with clarity, with a deep sense of alignment. You will not need to say much. Your very presence will communicate everything, but that kind of presence is earned through inner work, by facing your habits, your addictions, your excuses, by standing before them without running away. This mission is not about gaining followers. It is about embodying a truth so completely that others are reminded of their own truth when they are near you. That is not a performance. That is the result of practice. It begins in the early morning before the world has a chance to distract you. You train not for an audience, but for your own liberation, because no one is coming to save you. You are the hero you have been waiting for. Mastering your inner world requires radical honesty. You must stop pretending. You must stop saying, tomorrow, when you know it is a lie born of fear. Every time you procrastinate, your resolve weakens. Every time you run to a distraction, your conditioned mind wins. Mastery is not a destination. It is a choice that you must make over and over and over again.